The collision of sports, personalities, and public perception can create moments that echo far beyond the court, and few instances have demonstrated this better than the dynamic between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark during the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship. In the heat of competition, both players found themselves at the center of attention, with Reese exploding in response to criticism, while Clark left everyone stunned with her performance. This wasn't just about basketball. It became a national conversation, one that drew a sharp contrast between how these two standout athletes handled the pressure and how the world reacted. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Angel Reese had been a force all season, a relentless competitor whose presence on the court was undeniable. But after LSU's victory in the championship game, her moment of triumph was quickly overshadowed by the backlash. Reese, unapologetic and fiery, was criticized by many experts for her taunting of Clark, a fellow competitor who had just as much of a competitive edge. The moment where Reese gestured to Clark with the now infamous "You can't see me" hand wave ignited the storm on social media and beyond. What could have been celebrated as a bold display of confidence was instead met with accusations that Reese had gone too far. Caitlin Clark, meanwhile, was having a tournament for the ages. Her shooting was almost otherworldly, and her ability to take over a game left opponents and fans shaking their heads in disbelief. Clark's play had already cemented her as one of the best in college basketball, but it was her calm demeanor and ability to rise above the noise that further captivated the audience. She didn't need to say much after the game. Her performance had done all the talking. The contrast between Reese's reaction to criticism and Clark's response to the pressure only intensified the discussion. Reese, though, wasn't about to back down. She stood firm in the face of criticism, which only seemed to fuel her fire. Her post-game interviews were as passionate as her play on the court, and she made it clear that she wasn't going to apologize for being herself. For her, this wasn't just about basketball. It was about standing up for who she was, both as an athlete and as a person. She didn't shy away from calling out the double standards she saw in the way she was treated compared to other players, particularly when race was brought into the conversation. For Reese, the backlash wasn't just personal. It was reflective of a much larger issue. The media frenzy that followed was relentless. Pundits from every corner weighed in on the situation, and suddenly the story had evolved beyond basketball into something more significant. Reese's explosion was about more than just a celebratory moment gone wrong. It became a flashpoint for discussions about race, gender, and the expectations placed on athletes. Reese found herself at the center of debates about sportsmanship, with some defending her actions as part of the game and others criticizing her for lacking grace in victory. Meanwhile, Clark's silence in the aftermath was as loud as any statement she could have made. She didn't get drawn into the media storm, letting her game speak for itself. It wasn't that she didn't have thoughts about the situation. Undoubtedly she did. But Clark's approach was more about staying focused on her future, rather than dwelling on the moment. Her ability to stay composed, even when the spotlight was blinding, only added to her mystique. Clark had already left everyone speechless with her performance, but her measured response to the drama ensured that she wouldn't get caught up in the noise. For all the controversy, there was a certain humor in the way Reese handled the pressure. She knew how to rile people up, and whether it was intentional or not, she played into the spectacle. Her confident swagger, the kind that made her a star, was on full display as she openly addressed her critics, brushing off their words with the same ease she did with defenders on the court. Her personality was larger than life, and even though some found it abrasive, others admired her for refusing to be anything less than authentic. There's a certain charm to someone who knows they're being talked about and isn't afraid to stir the pot a little more. Clark, in contrast, didn't need to stir anything. Her game was enough to keep people talking for days on end. Her shooting was like clockwork, every shot a dagger. It felt like Clark was playing on a different plane, almost as if the hoop widened just for her. Her confidence wasn't loud or brash, but it was palpable in every move she made on the court. It was the kind of performance that left fans in awe and opponents shaking their heads, wondering how one player could dominate so completely. The fact that Clark did it all without the theatrics made her even more compelling. She didn't need to engage in the post-game drama. Her stats did the talking. What makes this clash so compelling is how it transcended the usual sports narrative. Reese and Clark weren't just two players going head-to-head in a championship. They were representatives of larger, ongoing conversations about sportsmanship, personality, and identity in athletics. Reese's unapologetic nature struck a chord with many who saw her as a symbol of self-empowerment, while Clark's stoic brilliance on the court made her a fan favorite for those who admired her focus and humility. The way these two athletes handled their respective moments in the spotlight said as much about their personalities as it did about the cultural conversations surrounding them. Reese's refusal to back down from criticism is a testament to her resilience. While some might have buckled under the weight of public scrutiny, she doubled down, owning her actions and her attitude. In a way, her explosion after the game wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was a calculated statement of defiance. Reese understood that she wasn't just playing for herself. She was representing something larger. Whether she meant to or not, she became a lightning rod for conversations about how black athletes are perceived compared to their white counterparts, and she wasn't going to let that go unnoticed. Clark's ability to stay composed, even when thrust into the middle of the storm, shows a different kind of strength. She didn't need to make bold statements or engage in verbal back and forths to prove her point. Her point had already been made on the court, and she knew it. Clark's calm in the face of the media storm wasn't indifference. It was focus. She was already looking ahead to the next game, the next challenge. It's that kind of tunnel vision that sets apart the truly great athletes, and Clark's ability to maintain it amid the chaos only made her performance that much more impressive. For fans, this entire saga was pure entertainment. Reese's explosion and Clark's ice-cold demeanor created a contrast that played out like a drama, with every move and every word dissected endlessly. It was the kind of moment that gets people talking, not just because of the basketball, but because of the personalities involved. Sports at its core is about competition, but it's also about the stories we tell around that competition. In this case, the story was about more than just who won or lost. It was about how these two players navigated their own paths to that moment, and what their reactions said about them. In the end, the clash between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark wasn't just a moment in time. It was the beginning of something larger. It opened up discussions about race, gender, and sportsmanship in a way that few other moments in sports have. Reese's explosion may have come from a place of frustration, but it also sparked a conversation that needed to happen. Clark's response, or lack thereof, was a reminder that sometimes silence can be just as powerful as words. Together, these two athletes gave us a moment that will be talked about for years to come, not just for what happened on the court, but for what it said about who they are and the world they play in. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.